Everyone in Brooklyn knew two things about Vincent Romano. His word could end you, and his bulldog could tear you apart. So when a skinny 8-year-old stepped toward that beast, the whole street stopped breathing. The first scream of the morning wasn't human. It was Rocco. His roar tore through the 27th floor of the glass tower on the Brooklyn waterfront, echoing off marble and metal, rattling the nerves of grown men who'd watched people die without blinking. "Easy, Rocco," murmured Vincent Romano. The bulldog hit the end of the heavy leather leash, muscles bunching under his brindled coat, thick slobber flying as he threw himself at the trembling trainer across the room. The man's hands shook so badly the clicker fell to the floor. I can't, Mr. Romano," the trainer stammered. "He's too aggressive. This dog he isn't normal." Vincent's jaw flexed. Late morning light poured in through floor-to-ceiling windows, turning the East River into a strip of blinding silver behind him. He stood tall in a dark, tailored suit, gray threaded through his black hair, a face carved into hard lines over 50 years of getting his way. Nothing frightened Vincent Romano, but right now, his knuckles were white around the leash. Rocco lunged again, trying to throw his weight toward the trainer. The thick chain collar dug into his neck. He snarled, eyes bloodshot, teeth bared. It wasn't random rage. It was something like panic, rage wrapped around fear. "Get out," Vincent said quietly. The trainer blinked. "Mr. Romano, if I could just—" The leash snapped tight as Rocco jerked sideways, claws scrabbling against polished stone. "Get out." Something in Vincent's tone turned the man's spine to ice. He backed toward the door, grabbing his bag with fumbling fingers. "I'll send a refund," he mumbled. "This dog, he's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Someone's going to die." The elevator doors closed on his words. Silence settled over the penthouse office, heavy and electric. On the wall behind Vincent, framed photographs watched. Handshakes with politicians, charity gala photos, smiling business deals that were really veiled threats. Rocco's growl filled the spaces in between. Vincent looked down at the dog, the only creature who had seen him wake at 3 a.m., soaked in sweat, heart pounding with ghosts from a life he couldn't seem to leave. "Why do you hate everyone, huh?" he muttered. Rocco's growls softened at the sound of his master's voice. His blocky head turned up, eyes suddenly softer, tail giving one uncertain thump on the marble. To Vincent, he was just a broken thing that never learned how to be safe. He understood that too well. A buzz from his phone shattered the fragile quiet. "Luca, boss, meeting with the jersey buyers at 3. You good?" Vincent typed back with one hand, the other absently scratching behind Rocco's ear. The only place the dog allowed anyone to touch. "Vincent, I'm always good." Outside, Brooklyn moved on. Honking cars, sirens wailing in the distance. A city built on ambition and exhaustion. Vincent turned his back on the view. He had money, power, fear wrapped around his name like barbed wire. So why did his chest feel like empty concrete every time he saw a child's hand in a parent's? 3 subway stops away, in a walk-up that smelled like fried onions and old dust, a little boy pressed his nose against a streaked window and watched the street below as if it were a movie. "Mom, he's out again," he whispered. His mother didn't look up from the stack of invoices on the chipped kitchen table. The glow from her old laptop painted her brown skin a dull blue. "Who?" she asked, distracted. "The scary guy with the dog," the boy said. "And the dog that looks mean, but his eyes don't." His name was Noah Carter, 8 years old, skinny with big eyes, too serious for his age. His t-shirt had a peeling picture of a cartoon astronaut. His sneakers were second-hand and slightly too big. He hugged a frayed stuffed dog with one arm. The fabric rubbed thin from years of being clutched in the dark. "Don't call anyone scary, honey," his mom said automatically. "And stop spying. People don't like being watched." "Everyone watches him," Noah said. "The deli guy, the taxi driver, even Officer Diaz." He squinted, trying to see better. "Mom, why does his dog pull like that? Is he hurting him?" His mother finally looked up, pushing a braid out of her face. "I'm sure he takes care of his dog," she said, but her eyes flicked to the window, to the tall man in the dark suit, holding back a straining bulldog on the sidewalk below. Her jaw tightened for a second. "Anyway, finish your cereal," she said. "I gotta run to the restaurant early today." Mrs. Kim added a lunch rush shift. I'll drop you at Miss June's, downstairs in 30 minutes. I'm not a baby, Noah muttered. I know, she said softly. But I still have to make rent. The words hung there like damp clothes, unspoken weight in the air. Noah shifted away from the window and shoveled another spoonful of soggy cereal into his mouth. The milk tasted kind of warm. He didn't complain. His mother already carried too many worries in the tightness of her shoulders. But his mind stayed on the dog. That dog was wild. Everyone said so. Kids at school whispered rumors. That's a Mafia dog, one boy had said on the playground, eyes wide. My cousin says his owner runs half the docks. Noah didn't know what Mafia meant exactly. He just knew that whenever the man in the suit walked by, adults went quiet and their eyes slid away, like when police lights glowed behind your car. Yet the dog looked terrified, like he expected the world to hurt him first. Noah understood that look. He knew what it felt like to flinch when someone raised their voice. Knew what it was like to miss a dad who only existed in a photograph tucked in his mother's dresser. A man, she said, wasn't safe to be around anymore. He slid off his chair, walked back to the window, and watched. Down on the sidewalk, Vincent tugged Rocco's leash short, trying to keep the animal close as they waited for the car. People made a wide circle around them, pretending they weren't, eyes catching and then skittering away. At the corner, a police cruiser idled at the light. The two officers inside pretended not to see him. He pretended not to see them. The city lived in those pretenses. Rocco's eyes suddenly snapped up, staring straight at the fourth-floor window, where a small face peeked over a cracked sill. For a long second, dog and boy locked eyes across distance and glass. Rocco went still. His muscles relaxed a fraction, head tilting just a little, as if something in that small, serious face didn't match anything in his past. The constant rumble in his chest faded to a puzzled whine. Vincent followed his line of sight, squinting up. Just a kid. Thin, big-eyed. Watching them like they were a secret. Vincent's brows pulled together, some old ache ghosting across his face before he shoved it away. Come on, he muttered, tugging the leash as black SUVs rolled up, tires hissed on wet pavement, doors opened, men stepped out, scanning, nodding. As Vincent turned toward the car, Rocco resisted for the first time that day. The Bulldog stared up at the window until the last moment, until the glass and that small face vanished from view. Noah's breath fogged the window. He pressed his palm to the glass. I'm not scared of you, he whispered to the shrinking figure of the dog. You're just sad. His mom's voice cut through from the kitchen. Noah, shoes. We've got 5 minutes. Let's go, baby. He tore his eyes from the street. As he shoved his feet into his too big sneakers, a thought lodged in his chest, small and stubborn. One day, I'm going to touch that dog. He didn't know that promise would change all of their lives. Quick question for you. If everyone in your neighborhood was terrified of a man and his killer dog, would you cross the street? Or would you be the one kid who walked closer? Be honest, and tell me in the comments what you would do. 2 weeks later, Brooklyn smelled like summer heat and garbage. The kind of humid afternoon where the air sticks to your skin and tempers fray at the slightest thing. Delivery trucks clogged the narrow street, horns blaring, someone yelling in Spanish, a baby crying on a third-floor balcony. Noah held his mother's hand as they walked back from Mrs. Kim's restaurant. His backpack bumped his side. Grease and soy sauce clung to his t-shirt. Do we have to cut across here? He asked, eyeing the corner. They were approaching Vincent's building. His mother sighed. It's the fastest way, honey. I'm already late for my second shift. She sped up, her sneakers slapping against cracked sidewalk. Sweat beaded at her temple. The world had settled into a rhythm of survival. Clock in, clock out, calculate tips, hope nothing broke this month. Noah's eyes, though, were on the glass doors of the tower. He'd started timing their walks, noticing when the black SUVs came and went. Sometimes he'd see the man in the suit stride out with his Bulldog. Sometimes he wouldn't. Today, he did. Vincent stepped through the revolving door, flanked by 2 men in dark shirts, their eyes scanning the street. Rocco surged ahead on his leash, thick body straining, nails scraping against concrete. The crowd parted like water, people instantly giving them space. Noah's heart started thumping. There he is, he whispered. His mother's grip tightened. Eyes forward, Noah. Don't stare. We're crossing. She pulled him toward the crosswalk, just as the traffic light blinked red. Engines growled to a stop. Across the street, a group of teenagers filmed on their phones. "Yo, that's him," one murmured. "That's Romano and his psycho dog." Rocco's breathing was loud, almost ragged. His tongue lolled, eyes wide, pupils blown. The city's noise bounced off glass and steel, amplifying everything. Somewhere nearby, a siren wailed. Vincent adjusted the leash, trying to keep it short without strangling the dog. "Easy," he muttered. "We're just walking." But Rocco's body was already vibrating with too much energy, years of being taught the world was a threat. A motorcycle backfired half a block away. The sound cracked like a gunshot. Rocco exploded. With a violent twist, he jerked backward and sideways, throwing all his weight against the leash. Vincent, distracted for half a second by a buzzing phone in his pocket, didn't brace in time. The leather slid in his hand. The handle slipped free. For a heartbeat, everything slowed. The leash clattered to the sidewalk in front of Vincent's polished shoes. Rocco looked down at it, then up at the moving world around him. No collar to bite his neck, no hand holding him back. Something primal flashed in his eyes. Then he ran. People screamed. A coffee cup flew into the air, splattering brown across someone's white shirt. A stroller was jerked backward, out of the way. A man dropped his hot dog and bolted. "Rocco!" Vincent roared. He lunged after the dog, but one of his men grabbed his arm. "Boss, wait!" Rocco barreled through a knot of pedestrians, shouldering past knees and bags, snarling at anyone too close. Not a straight line, not a direct attack, more like an animal trapped in his own terror, striking out at everything. Noah's mother froze when she saw the unleashed bulldog hurtling down the sidewalk. "Jesus," she breathed. Rocco's path was taking him straight toward the crosswalk, straight toward them. "Move, move," someone shouted. A woman stumbled, twisted her ankle, went down hard. People tripped over her, desperate to get away. "Mom," Noah gasped. His mother yanked him back behind a parking meter, shoving him toward the building wall with her body. "Stay behind me," she shouted. Her heart hammered so hard he could feel it through her shirt. Rocco skidded, almost lost his footing, then changed direction as a car honked and lurched too close. He turned toward the curb, where Noah and his mother were pressed against the brick. Noah saw his face clearly now. Not just teeth and violence. Terror. Confusion. A dog who had never learned the meaning of gentle hands or quiet rooms. Something inside Noah cracked. This isn't his fault. His mother's arm barred his chest. "Don't move," she hissed, voice high and thin. Rocco charged closer, barking, eyes wild. In the screaming chaos, in the pounding of his own pulse, Noah remembered something. "Basta, Rocco, basta." He had heard it one morning through the open window, the man in the suit's voice low and rough, saying it over and over as the dog thrashed against the leash. The word had stuck in his mind, strange and round. Now it rolled to his tongue like it had been waiting. Before fear could stop him, before his mother's grip could tighten, Noah ducked under her arm. "Noah!" she shrieked, grabbing for him too slow. He stepped away from the wall, into the open, into the space everyone else was fleeing. The bulldog saw movement and locked on. Time stretched. Noah lifted his hand, palm out like he'd seen on a dog training video once, legs trembling so badly his knees knocked. "Basta, Rocco," he yelled, voice cracking. The word punched through the noise. For the first time since the leash slipped, Rocco hesitated. His claws scraped the concrete as he skidded, chest heaving. His ears twitched at the familiar command, one he had only ever heard from one person before. His growl faltered into a confused whine. "Basta," Noah repeated, softer this time. He kept his hand up, fingers spread. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but he held his ground. People around them stared, stunned, phones recorded, lenses trembling. Up the block, Vincent stopped dead. He watched his nightmare of a dog, his untrainable, uncontrollable Rocco stare at a scrawny little boy in a faded astronaut shirt like the kid had just spoken the secret language of his bones. "Rocco," Vincent breathed, chest tight. The dog's whole body quivered. His eyes flicked from Noah's outstretched hand, to the crowd, to the cars, back to Noah. The boy took a tiny step closer. "It's okay," Noah whispered, voice barely audible now. "You're okay. I know you're scared." His hand shook so badly, it looked like a leaf in the wind. Rocco's nostrils flared as he sniffed the air between them. The kids at school had been right up close. He looked like he could break bone. Thick jaw, powerful shoulders, old scars, thin and white against his coat. "Please don't bite me," Noah added, almost like a prayer only the dog could hear. Rocco made a sound no one had heard from him in public before. A small, uncertain huff, somewhere between a bark and a sigh. Then, slowly, as if unsure of his own body, he walked the last 2 steps. His massive head bumped against Noah's trembling hand. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Noah's fingers sank into the warm fur between his ears. Rocco shuddered and stilled. The aggression drained out of his muscles like someone had pulled a plug. His breathing slowed. His eyes softened, lids drooping just a bit, as the boy's touch scratched that spot he never let anyone near. Vincent's stomach dropped. The world narrowed to that one impossible image, his demon of a dog, the animal that had sent grown men to the ER and scared off every expensive trainer in New York, standing calm under the hand of a child. Rocco leaned in, almost like he'd been waiting for this touch his whole life. "Noah!" His mother's voice broke on his name. She couldn't move, couldn't believe what she was seeing. Tears burned at the corners of her eyes. Fear, anger, awe, all twisted together. It was over in seconds. Vincent's men rushed forward, hands out, trying not to spook the dog as they grabbed the dropped leash and looped it back around Rocco's collar. The bulldog huffed but didn't lunge. Noah reluctantly pulled his hand away, heart still beating in his throat. He looked up. His gaze collided with Vincent's. Up close now, the scary man was more human than Noah expected. Lines at the corners of his eyes, tiredness behind the sharpness. Expensive cologne mixed with the faint scent of cigar smoke. For a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. Then Vincent found his voice. "What the hell were you thinking, kid?" he snapped. But the words came out strangled, caught between fury and something that sounded dangerously like gratitude. Noah swallowed. His legs felt like jelly. "I was thinking he was scared," he said. His voice wasn't brave, it wobbled, but the honesty in it hit Vincent harder than any bullet ever had. Behind them, Brooklyn started breathing again. Cars inched forward. Someone cursed about spilled coffee. Phones stayed up though, capturing the image that would replay in more lives than they knew. A Mafia don's wild bulldog, tamed in the middle of the street by a shaking little boy who should have run but stepped closer instead. And somewhere, without words for it yet, all 3 of their lives took a sharp, irreversible turn. The videos hit the internet before Vincent even made it back upstairs. By the time he walked into his penthouse office, Rocco pacing circles at the end of his leash, Luca already had a tablet in his hand and a look on his face that meant trouble. "You need to see this, boss," Luca said. Vincent loosened his tie, annoyance simmering just under the surface. "If it's about the Jersey buyers, it's about you," Luca cut in. "And the mutt." He hit play. There it was. Shaky phone footage. The street. The panic. Rocco breaking loose. And then, like a miracle or a curse, depending on how you looked at it, that tiny kid in the astronaut shirt stepping out from behind his mother. "Basta, Rocco." The room filled with the boy's thin, cracking voice. Vincent watched himself, frozen in the background, as his supposedly uncontrollable dog walked up to a child like he'd been doing it all his life. The video ended on Vincent's face, caught mid-disbelief, then jerked to someone screaming, "Yo, that kid's a dog whisperer," before cutting off. "How many views?" Vincent asked quietly. "Couple 100,000 already," Luca said. "It's all over local feeds. Brooklyn Don almost loses dog, kid saves the day. Some are saying the dog should be put down. Some are calling the kid a hero. Some are calling you a reckless psycho." He said it casually, but his eyes were sharp, measuring. Vincent's jaw ticked. He set the leash handle down on his desk. Rocco pressed against his leg, restless. "I don't care what they say," Vincent lied. Luca gave a humorless laugh. "Come on, Vin. Optics matter. You've worked too hard turning Romano Logistics into a respectable front. Now you got soccer moms in Queens sharing your face in their group chats." He hesitated, then added, "We got lucky. You know that? That kid could have been shredded. We'd be dealing with more than angry comments." Vincent's fingers drummed once on the table, then stilled. "I know," he said. The words tasted like metal. He turned to look out the window, the Brooklyn skyline staring back. In the reflection, he saw his own shoulders, broader than they'd been 20 years ago, weighed down by more than muscle. "You think I don't see it when I close my eyes?" he murmured. Kid standing there like he didn't know what fear was. Lucas slid the tablet onto the desk. The video paused on the boy's face. Wide eyes, trembling hand, stubborn chin. "You want me to find him?" Luca asked. That was the real question. Did Vincent want this boy anywhere near his world again? He pictured Rocco leaning into that small touch, like a drowning thing finding a raft. He pictured the mother's wild eyes. "No," he said eventually. "It was a moment. It's over. Let it die with the news cycle." He picked up a stack of contracts, signaling the conversation was done. But that night, when the city softened under darkness, Vincent lay awake on his expensive mattress, the high thread count sheets suddenly too tight. Rocco snored on the floor at his side. The image of the kid wouldn't leave, not just because of the video, because of the way Rocco had chosen him. No one had ever chosen Vincent without wanting something in return. Across the neighborhood, in a cramped bedroom with peeling superhero stickers on the wall, Noah wasn't sleeping either. His mother paced the small space, her arms wrapped around herself. The lamp cast a weak yellow glow, making the shadows under her eyes look deeper. "I could have lost you today," she whispered. It was the 5th time she'd said it since they got home, but each time it came out like the first. Noah sat on the edge of his bed, feet not quite touching the floor. His stuffed dog sat beside him like a silent witness. "He wasn't going to hurt me," Noah said quietly. He was scared. "Scared dogs bite," his mom snapped, then immediately winced at her own sharpness. She sank onto the bed next to him, pressing her fingers to her forehead. "I'm sorry. You ran toward him, Noah. Toward him." Her voice broke. "I know, Mom," he said. "But everybody was running away. Nobody was helping him." "He doesn't need help. He needs a muzzle and a yard with a fence," she muttered. "And that man needs to move his circus out of this neighborhood." Noah hesitated. He said thank you. In his eyes. She shot him a look. "Dogs don't say thank you." "They do," Noah insisted. "You just have to listen." His mother stared at him for a long moment, something complicated moving in her expression, frustration, fear, and a grudging sliver of awe. "You are too much like your father sometimes," she said finally. "Heart first, brain later." Noah looked down at his hands. "Is that bad?" "It's dangerous," she answered. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the distant sounds of the city. A siren, someone laughing too loud, a car stereo thumping. "Promise me something," she said at last. He glanced up. "Promise me you will never, ever go near that man or that dog again. I don't care what you feel or what you think. That world is not ours. We don't get mixed up with people like that, Noah. We just survive," he finished for her. He'd heard it enough times. She nodded, eyes glossy. "We survive. That's our job." He knew she was right. He'd seen enough in their old neighborhood before they moved here. Men shouting in alleys, cops rousting people, a kid from his class who just didn't show up one day. His mom had packed them in the middle of the night once, whispering, "We can't live near him anymore." He knew trouble wore nice suits sometimes. Still, the memory of Rocco's head under his hand made his chest ache. "I promise," he said. The lie was soft, almost weightless. She pulled him into a hug, fingers digging into his back like she could anchor him there. He closed his eyes, breathing in the scent of cheap laundry detergent and the faint smoke from Mrs. Lopez's cooking downstairs. But as her heartbeat thudded against his ear, his mind replayed that small whine, that leaning weight. He whispered to himself, so quietly not even the stuffed dog could hear, "If he needs me, I'll help him again." Noah wasn't the only one wrestling with a promise. In the days that followed, Vincent doubled down on control. He had a reinforced leash, custom made. He ordered his men to keep a 10-foot radius clear anytime he walked the dog. He adjusted Rocco's schedule to late nights when the streets were thinner. It was a freak thing, he told himself. He ignored the video climbing past 1 million views. He ignored the way his men joked about the kid who could do what no one else could. He ignored the extra patrol car that seemed to cruise by his building more often now, the long glances from uniforms who might be wondering if this was the crack in the armor they'd been waiting for. One afternoon, as he and Rocco exited the building, the doorman cleared his throat. "Mr. Romano," he said. "That boy his mom came by earlier. Asked if there was any compensation coming. For putting her son in danger. Vincent's eyes narrowed. She asked you that? The doorman swallowed. She was scared, sir. And angry. Said the dog shouldn't be anywhere near families. Said if anything like that ever happened again, she'd talk to a lawyer. The word hung in the air like smoke. Vincent's hand tightened on the leash. Did you get her name? He already had it. He'd heard her scream it on the street. Noah. But this was something else. Something more official. Carter, the doorman said. Jasmine Carter. They're in 4B of the building across the street. Rocco shifted at his side, glancing up as if he recognized the name too. Vincent turned toward the glass. Toward the building where a small face had once stared down from a dirty window. For a heartbeat, he imagined walking across the street, knocking on the door, putting an envelope in her hand, and saying something like, I'm sorry my dog scared your kid. This is for your trouble. Easy, clean. But it wouldn't be clean. Nothing ever was. He pictured her eyes, fierce and panicked in the chaos, and he knew how it would go. She'd slam the door in his face, maybe call the cops, maybe call a reporter, maybe tell that kid to never so much as look out the window again. He turned away. Forget it, he said. She won't hear from me. As he walked to the car, though, Rocco kept glancing back over his shoulder at the opposite building, nose working the air like he was chasing a scent only he could detect. Drop it, Vincent muttered. We're done with that. But the bulldog's leash felt heavier than usual, like he was dragging Vincent towards something he wasn't ready to face. If you were Noah's mom or Vincent, what would you do next? Cut all contact to stay safe? Or knock on that door and risk everything for the sake of the dog and the truth? Share your honest take in the comments. 3 days later, the city broke. Not with sirens or gunshots, but with heat. A brutal heat wave rolled over New York, turning brick and asphalt into radiators. The sun hammered down on Brooklyn like it had a grudge. Air conditioners groaned. Power grids strained. Then, at 2:17 p.m., the lights in Noah's building flickered once, twice, and died. The fan in the corner coughed to a stop. The fridge hummed, clicked, and went silent. The apartment felt instantly smaller, like the walls had leaned in. No, Jasmine muttered, jabbing the light switch. Come on, not today. Nothing. Outside, someone yelled, It's out on the whole block. Noah stood in the doorway, feeling the air grow thicker by the second. Sweat already prickled the back of his neck. Mom, he asked, is it like broken? She pressed her lips together, counting something invisible in her head. Hours until her shift, money in her account, probability of this becoming a bigger crisis. It's probably a rolling blackout, she said. City's been talking about them with the heat. They'll fix it. But 2 hours later, it wasn't fixed. The hallway stank of sweat and too many people. Old Mrs. Bernstein on 4A wheezed every time she stepped out for air. A baby on 3C cried until his voice went hoarse. The stairwell felt like an oven. Noah's t-shirt clung to his back. The water from the tap ran warm. He pressed his face against the window screen. But even the breeze outside felt like someone's hot breath. A knock rattled their door. Jasmine opened it to find Officer Diaz from the neighborhood beat, his uniform damp at the collar. Miss Carter, he said. The city's opened some cooling centers. It's going to be hours before Con Ed gets this grid up, maybe more. You got a kid, you should go. Where? She asked, automatically glancing at Noah. Diaz checked the paper in his hand. Closest one is Romano Logistics Tower. They got generators, cool air, water. City asked him to open the lobby to residents on this block. Her stomach dropped. You're kidding. He winced. I know how it sounds, but it's either that, or you ride this out here with no AC, no fan, nothing. It's not safe, Jasmine. People get sick in this kind of heat, especially kids. Noah perked up. Romano? He repeated, hope sparking in his chest. Like? No, his mother said sharply, already reading his mind. We are not going to his building. Diaz shifted, uncomfortable. Look, Miss Carter, I wouldn't be suggesting this if there was another option within walking distance. The school's center is at capacity. Hospitals prioritizing elderly. Romano's place. It's big, it's cold, and he said yes when the city asked. Why would a man like that say yes? She demanded. Diaz gave a small, bitter smile. Even sharks like good press. They stared at each other for a long moment. Jasmine looked past him, down the dim hallway, where heat shimmered faintly in the air. Sweat ran down the side of Noah's face. His cheeks were flushed. She knew the statistics. Heat stroke, kids. The story she'd seen last summer, about the little boy who didn't wake up. Her jaw clenched. "How long?" she asked quietly. "Till the power's back on," Diaz said. "You sign in, get a wristband, sit in their lobby, and complain about the city like everyone else. That's it." She hated it. Hated needing anything that had his name on it. But she loved her son more than she hated him. "Fine," she said. "We'll go. But we're in and out. No talking to anybody, we don't have to. Especially not him." Her eyes slid to Noah, and the warning landed like a weight. He nodded, but something flickered in his chest. A memory of warm fur under his palm. "Especially not the dog," she added. That part hurt more. The Romano Logistics Tower lobby looked different with half the neighborhood in it. The usual sleek emptiness was gone, replaced by scattered folding chairs, mobile fans blowing streams of cool air from portable units, and harried-looking city volunteers passing out water bottles. The marble floors were scuffed with shoe prints. The scent of expensive cologne battled with sweat and takeout containers. Noah walked in, clutching his mother's hand, his eyes wide. He'd seen the building from the outside 100 times. Inside, it was both exactly what he imagined and not at all. Everything was too shiny, too clean, too big. A woman in a city vest handed them blue paper wristbands. "You two together?" she asked. "Yes," Jasmine said. "Any medical issues? Asthma? Heart problems?" "No," she lied automatically. Her anxiety wasn't listed on any form. The woman pointed to a cluster of chairs near a big potted plant. "You can sit over there. Bathrooms are down that hall. Please don't block the elevators." As if summoned by the words, one of the elevators chimed. The doors slid open. Vincent stepped out. Conversation in the lobby muted for a heartbeat, as if someone had turned down the volume knob on the world. Even in jeans and a black polo instead of a suit, he carried the same aura of density, like gravity ran heavier around him. Rocco padded at his side, harness strapped tight across his chest instead of a simple collar now. The Bulldog's nails clicked on marble. Noah stopped breathing. His mother's hand tightened painfully around his. Her spine went rigid. "Sit," she muttered through clenched teeth. "We're sitting. Now." They moved toward the chairs, but it was already too late. Rocco paused mid-step, nose twitching. His head turned. He smelled something familiar. Fear, sweat, the faint trace of cheap cereal and dish soap, and under it all, the same small, steady heartbeat from the street. He saw the kid. His whole body went alert, but not in the way Vincent expected. The dog's tail gave one solid thump. Then another. Vincent followed his gaze. His stomach did that annoying drop again. The boy was even smaller than he remembered, swallowed by a too big t-shirt. His hair stuck to his forehead. His eyes were very, very bright. Beside him, the boy's mother looked like she'd bolt if anyone moved too fast. Protective anger rolled off her in waves. For a second, nobody moved. Then Rocco made the decision for all of them. With a grunt, he tugged forward, dragging Vincent several steps before he could brace. The leash went taut. "Rocco," Vincent warned. But the Bulldog wasn't lunging. He wasn't snarling. He was wagging. He stopped only when he was a couple of feet from Noah, chest heaving, tongue lolling, eyes gentle in a way no one in Vincent's crew had ever seen. Several people nearby instinctively shrank back, murmuring. Noah didn't. Heat still clung to his skin, but the air around him felt suddenly cooler, calmer. "Hey," he whispered. His mother's fingers clawed at his shoulder. "Noah." He glanced up at her, then back at the dog. "He remembers me." Jasmine was ready to stand between them again, to drag her son back to the safety of the plastic chair and her tired arms. But as she watched, really watched, something inside her wavered. Rocco was not the monster from her nightmares. He looked like a huge, scarred, scared thing that had stumbled into the only person on earth who didn't flinch. "Miss Carter," Vincent said. Hearing her name in his mouth jolted her. "You know who I am." "I make a habit of knowing the names of people my problems land on," he said. It wasn't quite an apology, but it wasn't nothing. She squared her shoulders. "Your problem almost killed my son." His gaze flicked to Noah. then back. Your son has more sense than most of the men who work for me. It was risky, that admission. A crack in his armor, showing he'd watched the video more than once. That he had thought about this, about them. More than the average stranger on the street. Sense? She repeated. He ran toward a dangerous animal. Yeah, Vincent said softly, and somehow knew exactly what to say. Noah swallowed, feeling caught between their adult words. I just said what you say, he blurted out. You know, basta. Vincent's eyes softened for a fraction of a second. You heard that from up there? He asked, nodding vaguely toward the street-facing apartments. Noah nodded. You say it when he freaks out. The elevator dinged behind them again. People brushed past, giving the strange cluster a wide berth. Look, Jasmine said, tugging Noah back an inch. We're just here because the city said we'd cook alive otherwise. We'll sit over there, you stay over here, and we can all pretend we've never met. Her voice shook, but not with fear alone, with the effort of holding boundaries in a world that loved to crush them. That might be difficult, Vincent said dryly, glancing at his dog. Rocco, as if understanding every word, plopped his rear on the floor like an obedient statue right between Noah's sneakers. The leash stretched from his harness back to Vincent's hand, a literal line tethering their two worlds together. For a long heartbeat, nobody moved. Then, the city's failing electrical system made the choice. A low, grinding buzz rattled through the building as one of the generators hiccuped. The lights flickered. The fans cut out, then sputtered back to life. The sudden shift in sound sent a ripple of anxiety through the crowd, and straight through Rocco's nervous system. He flinched, hackles rising, a growl starting in his chest. Noah saw it before anyone else. Hey, he said quickly, dropping to a crouch without thinking. His hand found the fur between Rocco's ears. Steady pressure. You're okay. It's just the lights. You're inside. Nothing's gonna get you. Rocco froze. Then, slowly, the growl collapsed into a heavy dog sigh. He leaned his whole weight against the boy, like canvas folding over a frame. Vincent watched it happen, something complicated twisting in his chest. He saw the way Noah's shoulders relaxed as the dog calmed. How Jasmine's hand hovered inches from her son's back, not sure whether to yank him away or hold him there. We're going to be here a while, a city worker called from the front desk. Con Ed says minimum 3 more hours for this block. Please make yourselves comfortable. 3 hours. 3 hours in the same lobby. 3 hours with his supposedly untamable dog welded to this skinny kid's side. 3 hours where ignoring them wasn't just difficult. It was impossible. Vincent took a slow breath. Miss Carter, he said, choosing his words like stepping stones over a minefield. While we're all stuck here, maybe we should talk about how to make sure nothing like the other day ever happens again. Her eyes flashed. You could start by getting rid of the dog. Noah's head snapped up. Mom! No, Vincent said, too quickly. Pain flared in his voice, unguarded. He's not disposable. Something in that rawness made Jasmine blink. Behind her anger, she recognized a kind of loyalty she knew too well. The kind that kept people clinging to broken things because they remembered when they weren't broken. Vincent swallowed. Maybe, he continued, quieter now. There's another way. One that uses what your boy clearly has. What's that supposed to mean? She asked. He nodded at Noah, still absently scratching Rocco's head. He's the first person that's ever gotten through to this dog without blood or threats. That means something. Jasmine's laugh was short and bitter. We're not part of whatever operation you run, Mr. Romano. We're just trying to live our lives without getting eaten on the way to the grocery store. I'm not asking you to be part of anything, he said. I'm asking if you'd let me compensate your son for his time. For what he did. Maybe he comes by sometimes, works with Rocco in a controlled way. You're there. My guys are there. Nobody gets hurt. Noah's heart slammed against his ribs. Work with Rocco. Touch him again. Help him again. His mouth opened before he could stop it. I can do it, he said. I want to. No, his mother snapped. Absolutely not. She and Vincent locked eyes. Two parents, in their own broken shapes, trying to protect what was theirs. The heat outside pressed against the glass. The cool air inside hummed around them. The leash between Vincent's hand and Rocco's harness stayed taut. So did the unspoken question stretching between them. What are you willing to risk for safety, For control, for love, for a chance at something you don't even have words for yet? And none of them knew it. But this stifling afternoon in a crowded lobby was the moment their lives stopped being parallel lines and started to twist together, whether they liked it or not. The argument didn't explode all at once. It simmered. They spent the first hour in the cooling center pretending the conversation hadn't happened. Jasmine sat stiff in one of the folding chairs, arms crossed, eyes fixed on some point above the reception desk. Noah stayed on the floor with Rocco, the dog's big head in his lap, fingers combing absently through fur. Vincent paced. He wasn't used to being told no. Not by business partners, not by rivals, certainly not by a woman in faded jeans and a t-shirt that said, Kim's Kitchen. But this wasn't business. Every time he looked at Noah's skinny shoulders bent over Rocco, something old pressed against his ribs, a face from another life. A little girl with pigtails and a laugh he hadn't heard in 10 years. He turned away, jaw tight. Hey. The voice was small, but it cut through his swirling thoughts. Noah was looking up at him, one hand still resting on Rocco's back. Why is he so scared? The boy asked. The question was simple, but it wasn't. It went deeper than obedience or training. It scraped at wounds that had nothing to do with leashes and everything to do with what this dog had seen. Vincent opened his mouth to brush it off. Because he's just like me. It's complicated, he said instead. Noah shrugged, unconvinced. My teacher says everything's complicated if grown-ups don't want to explain it. A choked laugh escaped someone nearby. Jasmine shot the room a warning glare. Don't bother him, Noah, she snapped. He's busy. I'm not busy, Vincent said before he could stop himself. He looked down at the boy, then at Jasmine. You want him to understand why he needs to stay away from my world? Maybe he needs to know what my world really looks like. Her eyes thinned. You think I don't know? I think you know the rumors, he said. You don't know this. He sank into the empty chair across from them. Rocco adjusted, shuffling over so that his body still pressed against Noah, but his head was angled toward Vincent, as if listening too. Vincent rubbed a hand over his face. He hadn't told this story in years. Most of his men only knew the outline, not the details. The details made you human. Being human got you hurt. I didn't grow up in buildings like this, he started. I grew up in a 2-bedroom walk-up in the Bronx that shook every time the train went by. My old man, he was a mean drunk on a good day. On a bad day, he stopped, jaw clenching as an old flash of memory hit, a smashed bottle, his mother's trembling hands, his little sister hiding under the table. He liked having things he could control, Vincent said quietly. Dogs? Kids? My mother. If it flinched, he kept it around. Said it reminded him who was boss. Noah's throat worked. My first dog was a mutt I found behind our building, Vincent continued. Skin and bones, I snuck him food. Hid him in the basement. My old man found out. His hands curled into fists on his knees. He spent an hour teaching me what happens to things I try to protect, Vincent said. When I was done throwing up, he said, you want to keep anything in this world, you gotta make it meaner than whatever's trying to take it from you. Silence pressed in. Jasmine's face had gone pale. Something in her expression said she knew that kind of lesson. Different details, same bruises. So I learned, Vincent said. I learned how to make men mean, how to survive, how to make sure nobody could ever do that to me again. His gaze dropped to Rocco. Years later, a guy I did business with ran a fighting ring over in Queens, he went on. Dogs for money, for fun, for people who like to watch something lose. His mouth twisted. They had this bulldog they kept in a concrete box. Scarred up, drugged half the time. They'd throw in smaller dogs or bait animals. See how long it took him to, you get the idea. Noah swallowed hard. That was him? Yeah, Vincent said. That was him. I went there to make a point with the owner. Never meant to walk out with a dog. But when they opened his cage, he charged, and then stopped. He could still see it, blood on Rocco's mouth, foam at the edges, eyes blown wide with threat and terror. He looked at me like he was waiting for me to be the same as the last guy, Vincent said. Like he already knew how this story ended. Something in that look had cracked open a part of Vincent he'd bricked over long ago. So I made a deal, he said. Guy owed me. I took it as payment. Wasn't because I'm a saint. Seeing him in that box just reminded me of me. Of my sister. Of all the things that got locked up so someone else could feel strong. He cleared his throat, voice rougher now. Brought him here. Spent years trying to train the fear out of him. Turns out, you can't train fear out of something that was born into it. You can only try to outlove it. And I'm not great at that. Noah's eyes shone. But you tried, the boy said. It wasn't a question. Vincent looked away. On the other side, Jasmine's fingers twisted in her shirt. So you rescued him from one hell and brought him into another, she said. Her words were sharp, but not cruel. He nodded once. That's fair. She watched Rocco's head in her son's lap, the way the bulldog's eyes half-lidded, breathing even. He looked more like a tired old pillow than a monster now. What about you? Vincent asked suddenly, turning the spotlight. You said you know my world. How? She stiffened. We're not telling life stories. Maybe you should, he said gently. He's getting pulled into this, whether we like it or not. He deserves to know what he's walking away from. He'd said walking away, not walking into. Noah looked at his mom. Curiosity and worry mingled in his gaze. She could say no. Shut it down. Keep the walls up. But the heat, the fatigue, the sight of her son safe beside the very thing that had almost taken him, it all scraped at her defenses. My ex, she said finally, Noah's father. He thought he was a big man back in Atlanta. Noah blinked. They didn't talk about his dad often, and almost never with names of cities attached. Ran with guys who wore gold chains and carried guns they thought no one saw, she went on. They liked quick money, fast cars, until the fast got faster than they could outrun. She stared at the far wall, seeing something far away. One night, a deal went bad, she said. I was pregnant. We had cops at the door, blood on the driveway, him screaming at me that if I opened my mouth, I'd lose more than a boyfriend. Her mouth twisted. When Noah was 3, his dad went away for a long time. I packed a bag, took a bus, and swore I'd never let my boy learn that chaos, as normal. Her gaze moved to Vincent, and there was steel in it. So when I see you, she said, I don't see your suit, I see him. I see a man who thinks he can love his dog and his violence in the same breath. And I don't want my son learning it's okay to stand next to that, no matter how special he is with animals. The words landed like a slap. Vincent didn't flinch. He deserved it. He also knew she was wrong about one thing. He didn't think it was okay. He just didn't know how to be anything else. The three of them sat in that charged triangle, broken pasts laid bare between them, a shaking dog and a skinny boy forming the only bridge. Noah looked from one adult to the other, their stories wrapped around his small chest like vines. Abuse, fear, escape, survival. All different flavors of the same ache. He wrapped his arms around Rocco's thick neck. Softly, almost to himself, he said, Maybe we're all just trying to find a place where we're not scared anymore. Neither adult answered. But they both felt the truth of it, down in the places they kept hidden. And for the first time, the question wasn't whether this connection was dangerous. It was whether, in a world that had taught them all to harden up or die, this strange, fragile thread could be the very thing that saved them. The blackout broke before their stalemate did. By the time the power came back, the sun was low, and the lobby had thinned out. People shuffled home, clutching empty water bottles and complaining about the heat, the city, the rent. Jasmine stood, fingers already reaching for Noah's shoulder. Let's go. Rocco whined. The sound was small, almost embarrassed, but everyone nearby heard it. The dog shifted his weight closer to Noah, as if refusing to believe this was goodbye. Noah's throat tightened. I'll see you again, he whispered into Rocco's ear. Okay, I will. You won't, Jasmine said. We won't. Vincent watched the war happening on her face. Fear, pride, exhaustion. The desperate math of a mother who had to balance safety against everything else. You said you wanted to keep him away from danger, Vincent said softly. You've seen today what happens when he's out in the world without someone who can calm him down. She froze. That was the cruel part. He wasn't wrong. I'm not asking you to trust me, he went on. I'm asking you to trust what you already saw him do. Her gaze flicked to Noah, who was now fiddling with Rocco's harness strap, lips pressed tight like he was holding back tears. The boy had been a little dimmer lately, too much adult worry soaking into his days. This was the first time in months she'd seen him look lit up. How would it work? She asked. The question dragged out of her. For a second, Vincent looked almost surprised she'd said it. Then his business face slid into place, but softer at the edges. 1 hour, twice a week, he said. You pick the days. You're always there. We do it in my office or a controlled space. My men stay back. You can even bring, what's her name, Miss June? The sitter? He shrugged. If it makes you feel safer, bring your own army. She snorted despite herself. And in return? She asked. Money? I was thinking of calling it a consulting fee, he said, for a very specialized skill. Her eyes narrowed. How much? He named a number that made her stomach flip. It wasn't life-changing for him. For her, it meant rent covered without counting tips, groceries that didn't come from the clearance shelf, maybe even a school trip Noah wouldn't have to skip this year. She almost said yes. Then she saw something no one else in that polished lobby saw. The tiny, reflexive flinch in Vincent's shoulders when he mentioned money. The way he slid the conversation into transaction to avoid the messy, vulnerable truth. This wasn't just about paying them off. He needed this. For Rocco. Maybe for something deeper he didn't know how to name. I don't want your dirty money, she said quietly. His jaw tightened. All money is dirty somewhere along the line, Miss Carter. I don't want my son thinking this is normal, she shot back. Thinking it's okay to take envelopes from men who show up in black SUVs and make cops look nervous. Then don't take an envelope, he said. Let me set up a transfer to a card in your name. It'll show up like any other paycheck. You can tell him you got a second job. Hell, I'll put you on a payroll for one of my legit businesses. Front desk. Admin. Whatever helps you sleep at night. The offer hung there. Bigger than the cooling center. Bigger than dog training. A job. Steady money. A step out of the grind of double shifts and bounced rent checks. He was offering it because he could. Because to a man like him, moving zeros around a screen was easier than saying, I need you. Her chest hurt. You try to pull us into anything illegal, she said, voice low and lethal. And I will burn your whole world down with whatever I've got. I don't care who you are. For a second, something like admiration flickered in his eyes. Deal, he said. Noah looked between them. So, I can see him again? Jasmine hesitated. She thought of Atlanta. Of a toddler clapping at sirens, because he thought they meant Daddy would be home soon. Of the night she realized love wasn't supposed to come with bruises and promises broken like cheap glass. She looked at her son, now older, quieter, carrying more weight than he should. She looked at the dog leaning into him, as if he'd finally found the one corner of the world that didn't hurt. Twice a week, she said. After school. And I sit in on everything. First time you so much as raise your voice at him, we're done. Vincent nodded like she'd just signed the most important contract of his life. The first session was awkward. Rocco remembered the boy. That part was easy. He practically dragged Vincent across the office the moment Noah stepped in, tongue lolling, tail wagging so hard his whole back end wiggled. Someone's happy to see you, Noah laughed, stumbling under the Bulldog's enthusiasm. Jasmine sat on the couch, spine straight, eyes tracking every movement, like security cameras. Vincent leaned against his desk, arms crossed, trying very hard to look like he was merely overseeing an unimportant experiment. You're allowed to smile, you know, Noah said, glancing up at him as he knelt to scratch Rocco's chest. It won't crack your face. Vincent's mouth twitched before he could stop it. Smart mouth, he muttered. Came free with the brain, Noah said. Jasmine coughed to hide a laugh. They started small, sitting, staying, walking Rocco around the office in loose circles, while Noah's voice cut through the dog's jitters like a gentle anchor. Vincent watched, fascinated. Trainers had tried treats, clickers, harsh corrections. Noah used patience and a calmness that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than his 8 years. Why do you talk to him like he's a person? Vincent asked. Noah shrugged. Because he is. He just doesn't have words. He glanced at Vincent. Kind of like you. The room went very quiet. Jasmine's eyes went wide. Noah, she hissed. Apologize. For what? He asked. It's true. He doesn't say much. He just looks like he wants to. Vincent let out a slow breath. Kid's not wrong, he said. Jasmine blinked. He stepped closer, lowering himself to the floor beside them, suit pants creasing in a way that would make his tailor furious. I'm not great with words, he admitted. You're great with threats, Noah said. I've seen your face on the internet. Jasmine groaned. Why? Why would you say that out loud? Vincent chuckled, a short sound of genuine amusement. Honesty's a rare thing, he said. I'll take it where I can get it. Noah looked at him seriously. Maybe if you talk to people the way you talk to him when no one's watching, they wouldn't be so scared all the time. The sentence landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading in directions none of them could see. Vincent cleared his throat. Okay, Dr. Phil, he said gruffly. Let's focus on the dog. Weeks blurred into a rhythm. School, restaurant, tower. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, Noah would rush his homework, then practically drag his mother across the street. The security guards got used to seeing them. One started keeping a stash of juice boxes in his desk for Noah. At first, Jasmine sat stiff and silent, arms folded, ready to spring at the slightest wrong move. Slowly, her posture softened. She saw things. Vincent taking a call in the corner, voice lowered but face pinched with worry as he said, "No, you don't touch his family. You got a problem with me. You bring it to me." She saw him order an entire catered lunch for his staff one day, and then barely touch his own plate, giving half of it to the janitor's grandson who'd stopped by after school. She caught him watching Noah and Rocco, sometimes with a look she couldn't categorize. Longing, regret, something that made him look 10 years younger and 10 years older at the same time. One rainy afternoon, when thunder rattled the windows and Rocco trembled under Vincent's desk, it was Noah who slid under there with him. "It's just noise," he whispered, stroking the dog's head. "You're inside. You're safe." Vincent watched from his chair, fingers digging into the armrests. "Does he always shake like that?" Noah asked. "When there's thunder, or fireworks, or sometimes for no reason at all," Vincent said. His voice was too soft for his usual persona. Noah poked his head out from under the desk. "What do you do when you're scared?" he asked. Vincent blinked. "I don't get scared." From the couch, Jasmine snorted. "Everybody gets scared," she said. "Some of us just hide it in nicer shoes." He glanced at her, surprised into a laugh. She smiled back, small but real. "I work," Vincent said after a moment. "When things get loud in my head, I bury it under numbers and meetings and problems I can actually solve. That's like when I build Lego towers so high Mom says they're a fire hazard," Noah said. "So I don't think about other stuff." "What other stuff?" Vincent asked gently. "My dad," Noah said. The word hung there. Jasmine's hand tightened around her paper coffee cup. She looked at Vincent, waiting for him to ruin this, to say something careless. He didn't. "I think about my kid too," he said quietly. "She doesn't live here, because of choices I made. So when it gets too loud thinking about that, I work," he nodded toward Rocco. "Or I walk him until my knees hurt." Noah stared at him, eyes wide. "You have a kid?" "Had," Vincent said. "Have. It's complicated." "Everything's complicated when grown-ups don't want to explain it," Noah said automatically. This time, all three of them laughed. Thunder rolled again, but it felt farther away. For the first time, sitting in that glass tower with a mobster, his traumatized dog, and her stubborn son, Jasmine felt something she hadn't expected in this place. Not comfort. Not yet. But the faintest whisper of possibility. That maybe, against all odds, something good was being built here, out of broken men and brave kids, and a dog who'd never had a soft place to land. Something that looked, from a certain angle, a little like love. The good days lasted just long enough for all of them to start believing they might deserve them. Then the world did what it always does. It reminded them what they were. It started with a knock on Jasmine's door. Not the hesitant tap of Mrs. Bernstein. Not the impatient thump of a delivery man. A firm, official knock that made her stomach drop before she even opened it. Two people stood in the hallway. A woman in a gray blazer with a clipboard. A man in a plain dress shirt with a badge clipped to his belt. "Miss Carter?" the woman asked. Jasmine's hand tightened on the doorknob. "Yes? I'm Miss Reynolds with Child Protective Services," the woman said. "This is Detective Hall from the NYPD. We've had a report, and we'd like to ask you and your son a few questions." Her heart sank. "About what?" she asked, though she already knew. "About your son's ongoing contact with Vincent Romano," Detective Hall said. His tone was polite, but there was steel under it. Noah, sitting at the kitchen table with his math homework, froze. His pencil slipped from his fingers and rolled onto the floor. Jasmine's first instinct was to lie, to slam the door, to tell them nothing and hope they went away. But she'd been on the edge of systems like this before. She knew how quickly a scared no could be twisted into non-cooperative. How fast a knock could turn into a custody hearing. She swallowed. "Noah," she said, forcing her voice steady. "Come here, baby." He stepped into the doorway, eyes wide. "Hi, Noah," Miss Reynolds said gently. "We just want to chat, okay? You're not in trouble. We just want to make sure you're safe." He glanced up at his mom. Jasmine nodded once, eyes full of apology. They sat at the small table. Miss Reynolds asked questions about school, friends, what he liked to do after class. Detective Hall let her lead, occasionally jotting notes. Eventually, the questions narrowed. "How do you know Mr. Romano?" Miss Reynolds asked. He has a dog," Noah said carefully. "Rocco. He was scared of everything. I helped him not be scared." She smiled. "I saw that video. You were very brave." Detective Hall slid a photo across the table. A still frame from a surveillance camera. Grainy, but clear enough. Noah and Jasmine walking into Romano Logistics. Date stamps showed twice a week, for weeks. "Looks like you've been there a lot," he said. "What do you do when you go up there?" Noah swallowed. "I work with Rocco. I help train him." "In Mr. Romano's office?" Hall pressed. "Yes, sir." "Has Mr. Romano ever asked you to do anything else?" the detective said. "Deliver packages? Carry messages? Talk to any of his friends?" "No," Noah said quickly, horrified. "We just play with the dog. And do homework sometimes. And talk." "Talk about what?" Miss Reynolds asked. "Stuff," he said. "Dogs, school, his kid." Her eyebrows rose. "His kid?" "He has a daughter," Noah said. "He misses her. He doesn't say it like that, but you can tell." Miss Reynolds scribbled a note. Jasmine's hands started to shake. "Is my son in trouble?" she asked. "Because of that video? Because of going over there?" "You're not the ones under investigation," Hall said. "Mr. Romano is. But when a known organized crime figure starts spending time with a child from the neighborhood, we have to ask why." His gaze sharpened. "You're allowing your son to regularly visit a man we suspect of money laundering, racketeering, and a handful of things I'm not at liberty to list off in front of an 8-year-old. You see why that concerns us." Jasmine's throat closed. She thought of the envelope she'd refused, the payroll job she'd reluctantly accepted instead, the way her bank account had stopped hovering at zero, how she'd been able to buy Noah new sneakers without checking the clearance rack. Guilt crawled up her spine. "I made sure I was always there," she said. "He's never alone with him. I'd never let." "With respect, Miss Carter," Miss Reynolds said gently, "you're talking about a man who has people killed with phone calls. You sitting on a couch doesn't change that." The words hit like a slap. Noah went very still. Is he gonna get arrested?" the boy asked. "Mr. Romano?" Detective Hall held his gaze. "We've been trying to make a case on him for a long time, kid. People like him, they hurt a lot of families. He saved us," Noah blurted out. "From the heat, from Rocco running away again." Jasmine flinched. She knew how this would sound. Like Stockholm Syndrome, like manipulation. Like every story of every kid who'd ever defended someone dangerous because that person had given them something they needed. Hall's expression softened just a fraction. "Maybe he did," he said. "But that doesn't erase everything else. Sometimes bad people do kind things. That's how they stay in business." Noah's eyes stung. "He's not all bad." "No one is," Miss Reynolds said. "But we have to look at the whole picture." She closed her folder. "For now," she said, "I'm going to strongly recommend that you suspend all contact between Noah and Mr. Romano. If you don't, and if it looks like your son is being used as leverage or a shield, we'll have to open a formal case." A formal case. The phrase landed like a weight on Jasmine's chest. She thought of courtrooms, of judges, of losing her son to a system that didn't know his laugh, or the way he liked his cereal. "I understand," she whispered. When they left, she locked the deadbolt with shaking hands. "No more," she said, turning to Noah. "We're done. It's over." He stared at her like she'd slapped him. What? No, Mom. I'm serious, she snapped. We can't go back there. We can't see him. We can't see Rocco. We pretend we never met them. His face crumpled. But I promised him. And Rocco is his responsibility, she said. Not yours. Not anymore. He shook his head, tears spilling over. You said we'd get out of the bad stuff. That we'd have a better life. This is better. He's a criminal, she cut in. The word felt harsher than she expected. We got lucky, Noah. But luck runs out. And I am not losing you because some man with a soft voice and a sad dog made you feel special. The words tumbled out faster, fueled by fear and the old wound of Atlanta. Noah flinched. So I'm not allowed to feel special? He whispered. Her eyes widened. That's not what I meant. He backed away, blinking rapidly. Mr. Romano never yelled at me like this. He never. She grabbed his shoulders. He never had to worry about people taking you away from him, she said, voice breaking. I do. He wrenched free and ran to his room, slamming the door. She sagged against the wall, hands shaking. On the other side of the glass across the street, in a high office, Vincent stared at his phone. A text from a number he recognized as the precinct's liaison. Hall, we paid a visit. CPS is involved. If you care about that kid, keep your distance. Next step is a subpoena. His grip tightened. Keep your distance. The words felt like another kind of sentence. He could fight subpoenas. He could buy lawyers. He could weather raids and investigations. He'd done it before, but he couldn't fight what this would do to Noah, to Jasmine, to the fragile trust they'd built. In his chest, something tore. He called, once, twice, straight to voicemail. Miss Carter, he said when it beeped. He didn't recognize his own voice, hoarse, raw. I heard they came by. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. It wasn't supposed to. I thought I could keep the world separate. He looked at Rocco, lying on the floor, head on his paws, eyes fixed on the door, as if waiting for a small pair of sneakers that wouldn't come. We're done, Vincent forced out. The words tasted like ash. Don't bring him here again. Don't answer my calls. If they ask, tell them you were just taking shelter from the heat. I'll make sure no one bothers you. He hung up before he could say the part that burned his throat. I'm the danger they're protecting you from. For the first time in years, he poured a drink before dark. Rocco whined and nudged his hand with his head, unsettled. I know, buddy, Vincent muttered, staring at the ice swirling in the glass. I know. On the other side of the street, a little boy clutched a stuffed dog and whispered into his pillow, I'm sorry, Rocco. I'm sorry I made everything worse. 3 hearts. 3 cages. 3 people wondering if they'd been fools to believe, even for a moment, that something as soft as love could survive in a world built on fear. The silence lasted a week. No calls, no texts, no visits across the street. The absence settled over all of them like dust. Noah dragged his feet to school. His teacher noticed his grades slipping, his jokes drying up. He stopped sitting by the classroom hamster's cage, stopped drawing dogs in the margins of his notebook. Jasmine threw herself into work, extra shifts, double sections. She came home smelling like grease and exhaustion, flopping onto the couch without turning on the TV. Vincent worked like a man trying to outrun his own shadow. He took meetings, signed deals, negotiated territory. He barked at his men more than usual. The numbers on his spreadsheets grew, but the quiet in his penthouse grew louder. Rocco changed too. He paced more, ate less. Every time the elevator dinged, he trotted to the door, ears perked, then slunk back to his corner when it opened on someone who wasn't Noah. One night, Vincent woke to a strange sound. Rocco, whimpering in his sleep. He turned on the lamp and saw the bulldog twitching, paws moving like he was running from something. A low, strangled sound escaped his throat. Hey, Vincent said softly, kneeling beside him. Wake up, big guy. It's just a dream. He scratched behind Rocco's ear where Noah used to, trying to mimic the boy's rhythm. The dog's eyes fluttered open, wild and unfocused, then found him. For the first time, Vincent saw something like accusation there. You're the one who sent him away. He sat back on his heels, something heavy pressing against his ribs. He'd always believed the lie that men like him didn't get to have good things. That attachment was a weakness his line of work couldn't afford. That letting go was safer for everyone. So why did this feel less like keeping Noah safe and more like abandoning him? On Wednesday, Jasmine found a letter in her mailbox. No return address, heavy cream paper, her name written in neat, blocky handwriting. Her first instinct was to throw it away. Instead, she opened it. Inside was a single page. Miss Carter, no lawyers, no threats, just facts. I put you on payroll at one of my clean companies. You can quit tomorrow, keep what I've paid you, and never hear from me again. No strings. Or you can stay. You can let your son keep doing what he's good at. You can stand in the room and watch and decide for yourself if this is poison or something else. Either way, I'm going to start cutting ties with the parts of my business that put you in CPS's crosshairs. It'll take time. It'll cost me. But I'm doing it. Not because they're on my back. They've always been on my back. Because when your boy looked at me, he believed I could be better. And for the first time in a long time, I want that to be true. You don't owe me forgiveness or trust. I just thought you should know what choice I'm making. V. Her fingers trembled as she read it again. Cutting ties. It sounded too good to be real. She knew men who'd promised to go straight after one last job and ended up in prison. She'd sworn never to believe a man's "I'll change" speech again. But this wasn't a speech. It was a plan. It was risk. In her world and his. She thought about Detective Hall's face, the warning in Miss Reynolds' eyes, the possibility of courtrooms and case numbers. Then she thought about her son's face when he'd said, "He remembers me." The way he'd lit up every time he walked into that office and saw Rocco's whole body wag. She sat on the couch, letter in her lap, and asked herself a hard question. Was she protecting Noah from danger? Or from the possibility of ever trusting anyone outside their tiny two-person world? What would it teach him if the first time he saw someone try to be better, she dragged him away before the story could finish? That night, she found him awake, staring at the ceiling. "Hey," she said softly, sitting on the edge of his bed. "Can't sleep?" He shook his head. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. He hesitated. "If I broke my promise," he whispered. "To Rocco. To Mr. Romano. I said I'd help. And now he's probably more scared. 'Cause he doesn't know why I left." Her chest ached. "You didn't break it," she said. "I did." He looked at her, eyes glossy. Are we never going to see them again?" She could lie, say yes, end it clean. Instead, she took a breath that felt like stepping off a ledge. "I got a letter today," she said. "From him." Noah pushed himself up on his elbows. "What did it say?" "That he's trying," she said, "to change things. To make his life less dangerous. For him. For the people around him." "Like us?" he asked. "Like us," she said. A silence stretched between them. "What do you want?" she asked quietly. "Not what you think I want to hear. Not what you think CPS wants. You. In here." She touched his chest. He bit his lip. "I want to help him," he said. "And Rocco. I feel like they're my responsibility now. Like if I walk away, I'm leaving them in that box you talked about." She swallowed hard. "And what if helping them hurts you?" she asked. "Would you still want it?" He thought about it. Really thought. For a long time. Finally, he said, "I don't want to get hurt. Or you. But I think if nobody ever takes a risk on people like him, they stay that way forever. And I don't want him to stay that way." He looked older than 8 in that moment. Like a boy standing at a crossroads he didn't choose, holding a flashlight bigger than his hands. She cupped his face in her palms. "You know you're the bravest person I've ever met, right?" she whispered. "I'm scared all the time," he said. "Being brave isn't about not being scared," she said. "It's about choosing what matters more." She sat there in the dark, the city's muffled hum filtering through the window, and realized the truth she'd been avoiding. She was terrified. Terrified of repeating old patterns, of trusting the wrong man, of losing everything. Terrified of systems she didn't control. Terrified of hope. But she was more terrified of raising a son who learned to shut his heart every time it hurt. The next afternoon, she walked into Romano Logistics. Noah's hand was sweaty in hers. Her own pulse pounded in her ears. The security guard blinked in surprise, then picked up the phone. "Mr. Romano, they're here." When the elevator doors opened on the 27th floor, Vincent was already waiting. He looked different. Less put together. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His shirt sleeves were rolled up. His tie was gone. Rocco broke formation the second he saw Noah, charging across the polished floor with such joy that he slid the last few feet, barely managing to stop before crashing into him. "Whoa," Noah laughed, dropping to his knees. Hey, I missed you too." The bulldog whined, practically climbing into his lap. Vincent watched them, something loosening in his chest he hadn't realized he was holding. Then he met Jasmine's gaze. "Miss Carter," he said quietly. "You said you were cutting ties," she replied, holding up the letter. "Prove it." He nodded. "Come with me," he said. He led them past the office and into a conference room. A whiteboard covered one wall, filled with names, arrows, and circles. Some names were crossed out. "These are the companies tied to the dirtier parts of my world," he said. "Shells, cutouts, I'm dissolving them, piece by piece, moving the real work to people who want it more than I do." Jasmine scanned the board, not understanding all the details, but recognizing the shape of real sacrifice. "This paints a target on you," she murmured. He shrugged, but his eyes were serious. "I've had a target on my back since I was old enough to lift a bat. At least this way, if something happens, I know I was walking in the right direction for once." He looked at Noah. "You said I should talk to people more. So I told my lawyer, my accountant, my other people. They think I'm crazy. Maybe I am. But I'm doing it." "Why?" Jasmine asked softly. "Really?" He held her gaze. "Because your kid looked at me and saw something worth saving," he said. "Nobody's ever done that. Not my sister. Not my ex. Not my daughter. Nobody." He swallowed. "And because every time I think about going back to the way things were, I see him standing in the street in front of a dog everyone else ran from, and I hear him say, 'Basta.' And I think, maybe it's time I told my old life the same thing. Basta. Enough." Jasmine's eyes stung. She saw the risk, the danger, the possibility of everything blowing up in their faces. She also saw something else. A man at a fork in his life, choosing for once, not the path of more power, but the path of less damage. She took a breath. "Okay," she said. He blinked. "Okay?" "We'll keep coming," she said. "We'll keep working with Rocco, and we'll see if you can be who you think you might be." Her mouth quirked. "But you step 1 inch back toward the hell you climbed out of, and I'm gone." He nodded, something bright and sharp in his eyes. Not triumph. Relief. In the corner, Noah grinned, hugging Rocco's neck. Somewhere deep inside all three of them, a choice clicked into place. Not a guarantee, not a fairy tale, but a decision to walk toward love, even knowing the cost. Change didn't come overnight. Real change never does. It came in small, stubborn steps. Vincent canceled a shipment everyone said was crucial. He took a hit on the books and didn't make it up the old way. He called his lawyer and against every instinct told the truth about some of his side operations, starting the process of making them clean or shutting them down. Word floated through the city's undercurrent. Romano's going soft. Romano's getting old. Romano's got a weakness now. He heard all of it. He kept going anyway. He struck deals that didn't end with threats. He handed off certain territories entirely. A few enemies tried to test him. They found out the hard way that kindness hadn't made him harmless, it had just changed what he was willing to fight for. CPS checked in again. Miss Reynolds walked into his office one afternoon and found a boy doing homework at the conference table, a bulldog drooling on his shoes, and a man in a button-down shirt grumbling over spreadsheets that looked suspiciously like legitimate business. "I won't pretend I'm not still concerned," she told Jasmine privately. "But I also can't argue with what I see. A kid who's doing better, not worse. A man who's cooperating more with the system than he ever has. For now, we're closing the file." When she left, Jasmine exhaled a breath she felt like she'd been holding since Atlanta. "Closed," she whispered. Noah beamed. Vincent pretended not to be relieved, but his shoulders dropped a full inch. In the middle of it all, something else grew quiet and unexpected. It was in the way Jasmine started bringing extra coffee sometimes, setting a cup on Vincent's desk without a word. In the way he noticed when she winced from standing too long, and ordered a better chair for her, saying it was for the receptionist, even though everyone knew she barely spent time at the front desk. It was in the evenings when Noah's homework was done, and they'd all end up on the couch, a baseball game playing softly in the background. Noah would lean against Jasmine, Rocco's head in his lap, while Vincent sat on the other end, one hand absently scratching the dog's ear. They started talking. About little things at first. Teachers, food, the Mets' terrible bullpen. Then deeper. One night, when the city outside was wrapped in the honey gold of sunset, Noah looked up from his math book. "Can I ask something?" he said. "Shoot," Vincent replied. "Do you think people like you, like who you were, can ever really change?" the boy asked. "Like, all the way? Or are you just pretending until it catches up?" The room went still. Jasmine started to jump in. "Hey, that's too heavy," but stopped. She wanted to hear the answer too. Vincent stared at the window for a long moment. "I don't know if I can ever erase what I've done," he said finally. "There are nights I wake up and see faces I'd rather forget. Men I hurt, families I scared. You don't walk away from that clean." His voice was rougher now. "But I think changing isn't about pretending it didn't happen," he said. "It's about what you do with the time after, who you choose to be in the rooms you walk into, who you protect instead of who you exploit." He glanced at them. "I used to walk into rooms thinking about what I could take. Lately I walk in and wonder if there's anything I can fix before I leave." Noah nodded slowly. "Like with Rocco," he said. "You couldn't fix what happened to him, but you could make sure it didn't keep happening." "Yeah," Vincent said, "something like that." He hesitated, then added, "You made it easier." "Me?" Noah squeaked. "You," Vincent said. "You and your stupid astronaut shirt and your bad haircut." "Hey," Noah protested, laughing. Jasmine smiled, watching them. In moments like this, it was easy to forget the labels. Mafia, single mom, at-risk kid. They were just three people, slowly stitching themselves into something like family. A few months after the blackout, on a crisp fall morning, they met in a park. No marble floors, no security guards, just trees shedding gold leaves, kids screaming on the playground, and a gentle breeze off the East River. Rocco trotted happily between them, leash loose in Vincent's hand. "This feels weird," Vincent muttered, eyeing the clusters of parents and joggers. "Welcome to normal," Jasmine said. "We like it here." He smirked. "Feels overrated." Then he saw Noah's face as the boy raced ahead, calling to Rocco. "Okay," he admitted. "Maybe not." They stopped at the edge of a big patch of grass. "Ready?" Jasmine asked Noah. He nodded, face serious. "Ready for what?" Vincent asked, suspicious. "We talked," Jasmine said, "about how you said fear never really goes away, how you just have to outlove it." She nodded at the leash. "You sure you want to keep holding that?" His grip tightened reflexively. Every instinct screamed yes. Control, safety, distance. He looked at Rocco. The bulldog looked back with the open, goofy trust of a creature who had finally found his people. Vincent took a breath. Slowly, he bent down and unclipped the leash. Rocco blinked at the sudden lightness. Then he did something Vincent had never seen him do in public. He bounded away. Not in panic. In joy. He ran in uneven circles, ears flapping, kicking up leaves. Kids pointed and laughed. A little girl squealed as he zoomed past, then giggled when he came back to sniff her hand. Vincent's heart pounded. "What if he bolts?" he asked. "What if he freaks out?" "He won't," Noah said confidently. "How do you know?" Vincent demanded. "Because he knows where home is now," Noah said. As if on cue, Rocco paused mid-run, turned, and barreled straight back toward them. He skidded to a stop right in front of Noah, panting happily. Noah held up his hand, palm out. "Basta, Rocco," he said, smiling. The dog sat instantly, tail thumping. The word hung there. The same word that had stopped a rampaging dog on a summer street. The same word Vincent had whispered to his old life in a conference room full of crossed-out names. Enough. Enough fear. Enough running. Enough being caged by who you used to be. Jasmine slipped her hand into Vincent's. He startled, then didn't pull away. "You did it," she said quietly. He looked at their joined hands, then at Noah and Rocco in front of them. "No," he said. "We did. She squeezed his fingers. They stood there, an ex-mobster trying to stay ahead of his past, a woman who'd once run from danger now choosing to stand beside a man who refused to keep pretending he wasn't dangerous, and a boy who'd walked toward what everyone else had fled. Unexpected love had stitched them together, not the kind on movie posters, something messier, realer, built on apologies and second chances, and a dog who'd taught all of them how to trust again. As the sun dipped lower, painting the skyline in orange and pink, Vincent felt a strange, unfamiliar peace settle in his bones. For the first time in as long as he could remember, he wasn't looking over his shoulder. He was looking forward, at a boy laughing in the grass, at a woman whose steady gaze scared him in a good way, at a future that might still be complicated but didn't feel doomed. He exhaled. "Come on," he called. "Dinner's on me. A real restaurant this time. No microwaved leftovers." "Fancy," Jasmine teased. Noah ran back, cheeks flushed. "Can Rocco come?" "He goes where we go," Vincent said. "We." The word slipped out before he could stop it. No one corrected him. They walked out of the park together, Rocco trotting between them, heads turning as they passed. Some people still stared. A few whispered. But for the first time, Vincent didn't care what story they told. He knew the real one. It was about a bulldog nobody could tame, a boy who saw fear and walked closer instead of running, and a man who finally decided that being feared wasn't half as powerful as being loved. If you were in Jasmine's shoes, would you have taken the risk letting your child stay connected to a man with a dangerous past who's genuinely trying to change? Or would you have cut it off to stay safe, no matter what? Tell me in the comments which choice you'd make and why. And if this story hit you in the heart at any point, don't forget to like the video and share it so someone else can feel it too.